AfterBuzz TV's after show for Feud season finale. Oh my God.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AfterBuzz TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
Wow, Fern Renee here with Keven Undergaro. I saw it twice. I saw this last night. Could not sleep. Could not fall back to sleep. Thought maybe there was things going on in my personal life. Fern, you saw it.
Oh my God.
And you said if I wasn't there, you would have balled your eyes out.
If I were at home watching in the comfort of my home with no makeup on, I would have let it rip. I would have cried my eyes out. I'm here at AfterBuzz watching with my fake eyelashes on, so I couldn't let it out.
You pulled a Joan.
Oh my
God! By the way, and a Bette, as we learned in this episode, how much they were the same.
Yes.
But oh my! I mean, my heart. I'm speechless. My heart is
there
in a million
were so many
pieces.
lines. The writing was so beautiful and perfect and wonderful, and there were so many lines that I choked off. I couldn't take it.
It was and directing wise,
beautiful.
Gwyneth
Porter
Payton, as you said, she directed Mommy Dearest, the Mommy Dearest episode,
yes.
And this is a one to watch. This kid.
Yes.
But
another female director.
You know, we have this music. Yeah, let's that keep going, Juliet. So you know, we open with Pauline. It's in '78 at the documentary.
Yes.
And we see Pauline has gone on, as we would expect. She marries, she does the civilian thing, but then discovers documentary filmmaking with something worthwhile, which is, you know, it's a military documentary, right?
Yes, about war crimes and veterans.
Right, and it's, again, I mean, this thing just, it wrote itself.
Yeah.
Because even that, like the symbolism of war, talking about war crimes, right? Is this not one giant crime of war?
She described Joan Crawford as being tossed away, and then you see Joan Crawford flipping through the channels, and you see it looked like men in Vietnam.
That was
running
Vietnam,
through
sure.
So this is the documentary that the woman who you told is probably never going to be a director on TV, who you tossed away. Now her film is on TV.
And thank God she got her moment. One of the redeeming characters in this, I think. And when she describes seeing Joan at the airport, dressed in pink with white makeup, in a wheelchair, alone, broken ankles, drunk. I mean, was she not Baby Jane?
Right.
Right?
Yes. Right.
A shut-in. Like, even though the Baby Jane, even though the character in Baby Jane she didn't want to portray, remember Bette said to her, come on, you're a shut-in.
Yes.
You know, you've never seen sunlight. Now she's become that.
But in Baby Jane, the other one hadn't seen sunlight really either, and she was living in her past.
But she owned it. You know, with her makeup and whatnot.
But she was living in the past, and here's Joan through LaGuardia Airport in white makeup, living in her past.
And let's talk about the raindrops keep falling on your head. This montage, where we see Joan trying to embrace life of today. So today there's no full-time maid. There's no mansion.
It's a galley kitchen with a microwave.
Right, so it's modern. Bright yellow and green. Like it's there's a lot of hope here. She's taking care of herself. She's cleaning.
I felt it was sad.
Yes, it was.
With the TV dinner kind of thing.
It was sad until we get to the next scene.
Yes.
The next montage. No, which that made me seeing it again go, okay, it's not bad, but you know it's a farce. You know it's sugar water. Right. It's but she's trying. She's trying to adapt to the new world. That's what it seems like to me.
Yeah.
Even to the point that she does see the Vietnam War, so that's today. She sees it was the ladies' documentary, which is like, and then it's what she smiles when she sees the soap operas, which is, you know, sugar water, two-dimensional crap, but that's what's fed her. That's what's nourished her whole life.
Which is also what you do when you have nothing to do. You watch soap operas.
Yes, you do.
Which is what Betty's going through, though she doesn't know it.
On the other side. Cancels lunch because she's...
Can't fit in her green dress that had made an appearance earlier.
Good eye. And the puppy comes, which a female puppy, which is again, it's hope.
Yes.
Of
yeah.
I'm gonna try to make this new life work. And then we see the red blood in the sink, the pink bathroom. But then you go to the overhead shot, you see a little bit of the red lighting, and Mamacita returns, and this ends the montage of rain. And Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head is a light. I believe it was late '60s that song came out. So, and again, this was in '67, so that makes sense. But it was, again, it's that light kind of fun. Think of the other stuff that was coming out in the late '60s.
Right.
Like some of the darker music about the war or whatever. This was still light and fluffy.
Very.
And she loves it. Mamacita comes, nothing's worrying me. And the door closes and she smiles and
her friend is back.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, I think we can make a go of this. Go to the dentist. Okay. And this is horrifying.
Horrifying.
Tooth infection, because she's had 6 molars removed, and just when you think it was bad dentistry, we find out this was a choice.
Yes, to make her cheekbones kind of sink in, to give her cheekbones after a certain age.
If she wanted to work after
25.
25.
Which is a baby.
25.
Yes.
What goes through your brain, Fern, as you see this as a female?
I was thinking, what year was it that she had those teeth removed? Can you imagine getting dentistry work back then?
I don't know.
And that she would go through the pain.
Probably would be the mid-20s.
Yes, that you would go through the pain of getting teeth removed at a dentist's office in the 20s because it's not so much, it's so easy to write it off as vanity. But it was really self-preservation that she was like, this is all I have. She didn't go to college. She didn't go to grad school for sure. Doesn't have family.
Look, she's got that brother and the mother.
Exactly, that horrible brother.
Stepfather, like whatever.
Exactly. That's what she's coming from. This is self-preservation. This is, if I'm going to survive and make money, this is what I have to do. So it's easy to write her off as vain, but it was also so much more than that.
The procedure is called the buckle. I've never even heard of this. And what
sounds
about
painful.
Okay, a little crack at Martha Ray, and I seem to believe Martha Ray at the end of her life doing dentures, Polydent commercials and things like that. So I thought that was interesting. Martha Ray was a big star back in the day. Certainly not Joan. She'll take health.
He gave her good advice. He was like, you should worry about your health now over your looks at this
being
age.
photogenic, and then
she said, I'll worry about my looks when I'm in formaldehyde. Wow. The irony being, the next movie she does, the character is preserved in ice.
The production design you see right. Good catch, and you see in the colors in there too. You're seeing blues. You see a lot of pink and blue going throughout this, but dark. Coffee shop in The Agent.
What was that?
So we go to the coffee. We go to this coffee shop with her agent Stan.
Yes.
And okay, this is stuff that Justin. By the way, Justin and Maria are not here today, and I'm dying. I can't believe Justin's not here on the last episode. but our schedules have all been wonky. But the Western omelet sign. I don't know, could you see it? And like it was a little bit in reverse. And there's so much even in the next scene about West is the best, and you get an omelet is fried and grilled, and the West is, she's now in the East. Do you know what I mean? In New York. Again, those are the days of past. She's drinking her Pepsi, and did you notice the setting? The wood walls were similar to Betty's house.
Oh, that now she's in like the real.
Well, I think this is a role reversal I noticed in this, because then notice Betty is at the Hollywood restaurant that's all bright.
Yes.
And it's the Joan world of the old Joan.
Yes. They're seeing things from each other's sides.
Yes.
It really quickly in the dentist's
please.
office, she said, "Christmas stars are like Christmas trees. When the lights go off, you see their needles."
Fall.
Meaning, like
we like to see that.
Yes.
That's all we want to see.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. So I thought that was so interesting that she would say to her dentist, is saying that she needs someone to confide in, and that this is the end. I feel like she knows it's the end.
Notice he's going to give her pain medication, which I believe is something she will abuse.
Yes.
And does. But
I thought that was great writing too. It was a good line.
Oh my God, it was amazing. She talks about in this dim kind of coffee shop, she's looking at the missing link / Trog as, oh, how exciting. I almost played Madame Curie in MGM, but Louis B. Mayer wouldn't let me.
So now I get to be an anthropologist, which she is so desperate, like so looking for, like, that make me look smart.
Will they at least fly my maid? No. And there's no money. And even the agent's honest. He's like, I don't think you should do it. But she's all in. She thinks the Academy loves this kind of stuff. And then this lifestyle advice book, which I didn't know about.
She really did that, yes.
I'm
and
sure
all
she
of those
did.
things that she later we see her saying, giving all of these bits of advice, were things she actually wrote.
Wrote in the book,
yeah.
which we'll see a complete juxtaposition in the
Yes.
next scene. And there'll be Joan Crawford luggage, Joan Crawford this, Joan Crawford plastic furniture. Again, we just keep going back to that theme of sugar water and fake and phony.
Not real.
But this book, were the sales as poor?
I don't know, but I know it happened. I know it was Simon & Schuster. I know.
Juliet in the booth, by the end of the show, can you see if Joan Crawford's lifestyle book sold? According to this, it didn't, so I'm sure it didn't. But let's go to the scene now where this just killed me when we got to London. We meet Freddie Francis, the director. We've got it's almost a repeat beat of Betty of Baby Jane, because there's no car, but she took a cab and
she survived. She's
now-
not with Mamacita.
no, and now she knows the movie's called Trog. And it's going to be called Trog, and you just see her face. It just starts to deflate.
And then that she'll be sharing the makeup trailer with an ape, with the and
And you
Trog.
can give him notes.
Yes.
But again, she's smart enough to know. Wait, he doesn't even look. His arms, like,
Right.
oh well, you can give him notes. And by the way, later when you see him, he does have hair in his arms.
Yes.
And to me, it said, I think this was Ryan Murphy and them saying, hey, this lady wasn't without talent.
Right.
She wasn't. She had talent. She did
Right.
have passion for this. And I also thought it was interesting. She refers to it as the picture, and Freddie Francis refers to it as the movie.
Which is
Go ahead.
I think that's a change of generation.
Of
because,
course.
Yeah, because everyone prior says, my
Picture.
grandparents say that was a beautiful picture.
Picture.
Yes.
No dressing room. Okay. And anyway, when we deal with the closing shot, we see the last kind of real dressing room she had, it seems, on Baby Jane was no free trip to Florida either,
Right.
as they say. But now there's no dressing room, and she says, bring me over to where I'm going to be. And it's an old, beat-up van.
Yeah.
And listen, I know Jason gets mad. He says I go all Harry Potter. Justin, I'm sorry. But the van, the VW van, is so of the youth of the time. Do you know what I mean?
Right, right.
So even that was
She would
like,
never be caught dead in that.
no,
Right.
and then it's beat up and rusty and dirty.
And her flat in London is disgustingly dirty.
Dirty and dark, and the pink drapes you can see from the exterior shot. And
She's
then
got a cardboard table
yes,
to write on.
yes, but can we talk about when This Is the End plays by the Doors? Julia, bring that in. Find This Is the End by the Doors. When this came in, I didn't know it was the end by the Doors, but I knew it was. We were going from that sugary, saccharine song of Raindrops. The juxtaposition was going to happen, and when we got this psychedelic song, I was like, oh no. Now, this is really what the time period is.
Right.
It's not what she's tried to create.
Right, exactly.
This fake,
Yes.
like, sugar water lifestyle of Hollywood. Now it's reality, and
And
to
her
me,
and Betty hated this time. They hated they both had very, comments to say about the hippies and the way they dress and the way they don't take care of themselves and the way they, their parents are paying for their lifestyles of doing nothing. So they were about hard work and that Raindrops is, yes, it was the late 60s, but that was a song from more.
it's a throwback.
Yes.
Yeah.
Completely.
It was almost like pop music versus, which is,
What was really becoming popular at the time,
which is
was
more
this.
meaningful, poignant music. Oh my God, this just comes in. This to me was when I
Could've
lost
lost
it. Yes, when I said, "Oh my God!" It was about 1 a.m. I'm watching this, and I'm like, "No, stop it!" I mean, and we see the young girls in the bathroom.
Yes.
the little cuties again.
Yeah,
She's like,
she was giving all of this advice that was in her book.
Yes!
So she said, you know, I only use certain types of colors, and then she sees the ape doing his makeup on his skin. Oh. And then, you know, I only sit on certain, you know, hard seats, so it
seats.
doesn't. She saw these beautiful girls getting ready, and she had to go into the stall and sit down.
Sit on a hard seat.
So she's giving all of this advice that you probably, as you're reading it, you probably picture her doing her makeup with bright lights in her Brentwood house, and her sitting on a seat in whatever, like a throne, like in a beautiful dressing room. Then she says, you know, gives advice about being a mother, and she's holding a doll, which says everything about her relationship with her kids.
Yes. Again,
because
it's
it was not real.
It's not real. The book is not real. Her life is not real. And we just keep both of them, and we just keep hammering this home.
And she said, if you get a pass from your boss, something about, you know how to pass it off, and someone invited her to drinks, and it was so obvious they were just like inviting her like as a team member for drinks.
Yeah, like, hey, want to get a pint with us? Like banging on the window as she's taking pills, doing a shot, about to light up a cigarette in the shitbox can. Oh my God! And even sitting on a hard chair, like even that symbolism of her messages, sit on a hard chair, be uncomfortable, but anything for beauty. For beauty and for the phony presentation. And then, just imagine on the set of Hush, Hush, Sweet Charlotte, when Betty says, do we need 2 pages of dialogue for the scene? Can't we do it in less words? And now what does she say to Freddie Francis?
Yes.
Can't we just do this in fewer words?
Yes. Which she probably didn't even really mean. You know, like she would have never gotten that if she hadn't obviously heard it from Bette Davis. So now she's trying to take, you know, what she thought Bette Davis's probably smart commentary, probably the intelligent view of the script.
Maybe, or, and I'm not saying you're wrong, maybe, or because they are having this role reversal, like she was smart enough to go, wait, why doesn't he have hair in his arms? And then, she's like, you guys are idiots. Like, we don't need all of this. Like, I really am an artist. Like, I'm not, you know, and I am willing to commit. Look, I'll get ready in a van. I will clean myself in a bathroom. You know, like I'm into the art. You know, like I'm, you know, and they weren't. Like they were just hacks.
Right.
And remember, Betty loves talent. Right. That's why she loves Victor. That's why she likes. And these people, it doesn't appear like there's a lot of talent here. You know.
I just think that she was we see her being so insecure throughout this whole series. What's at the root is both of their insecurities for different reasons.
Yes.
So I think they've carried it through, and we have the best fans at AfterBuzz. I love when people tweet me. It's, you know, we're here to, our job
they fill in the gaps.
Yes.
You know, you guys do. Like,
amazing.
I wish I had more time to read some of the YouTube comments because you guys
are the best.
Yeah, you fill in so many great gaps for us.
And there's a lot of Joan fans who feel like they were hoping this show would wipe out that kind of what's in the public consciousness of that kind of mommy dearest character.
I guess that's a post discussion, but we should maybe bring it up now. I think it has.
You think it has? They feel that it just showed her being even crazier. Where I think that
maybe even after this episode, you gotta be kind of heartless, guys.
Because I think that it went from 62 to 77, and in that time, yes, she might have, you know, there was an issue with Hush Hush Sweet Charlotte. There were certainly issues, but she did serve on the board of directors of Pepsi, and I was waiting for them to show that in this episode because you can't. It wasn't a vanity role. She was legitimately.
She was,
involved.
They claim that she used that more to show, see, I'm relevant, see, I'm a somebody. I don't know if her decisions were actually helpful. I don't know. We probably should explore that.
But they didn't go anywhere near that in this episode. Which I thought they finally would to maybe kind of round out her character. So I can see what people are saying, but
even again, unless her role there wasn't authentic.
Right.
I know she loved it. Like remember Betty saying, you know, I'm getting paid by them. Why are you still always with the Pepsi?
Right.
Living the lie. But I feel as though here's why I think you should be empathetic. She paid.
Yeah.
Jack Warner didn't seem to pay. 81 years, had a great run. Hedda Hopper, in my opinion, did not pay. Had 80 years, had a great run.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel that although Betty suffered too, I think Joan
suffered the most.
At the end, yeah. And she paid.
Yeah.
She paid. And not a year, guys. Like, it seemed like this was from Baby Jane till death. She paid. And so, I mean, I hope I came into this very jaded against her. I've said this is someone I would never want to work with. Betty would be hard to work with, but you know what? She's at least trying to make a great film.
Right.
And that's great. But when you have someone it's about the lighting and them and this, and which I was under the impression Joan was like, and I felt like most of her career she was. But that aside, I feel...
Do you feel like this opened your eyes to beyond the mommy dearest?
Yes. Yeah. Yes, I do. And anyway,
she did suffer because there was another point in this episode where I think right after this, she said she would hear people say, "That's Joan Crawford," and she would turn around and say, "Yes, I am," that she loved being Joan Crawford. But I'd read that she had heard people say, "She used to be Joan, see that woman? She used to be Joan Crawford." Which is so
painful.
Horrible and painful.
And as we said, it's not like she had the best upbringing. She wasn't set up for success. I thought I also can't get over. I want to now go see Trog. Just even, I don't know if you noticed the cheap lights, the scratched up old Apple box that the cameraman's sitting on. I mean, the very small crew. And what did you make of that creepy moment when the guy who plays the ape in an English accent remind you of your youth at MGM, Joan?
Oh my God.
Was that in her mind?
No, I don't know. I took it as him saying that and him saying something like that behind a mask, which is easier to do. And she, just so crushing.
Did he mean to be sarcastic, or was he just clueless?
I didn't know if he was referring to whatever they were drawing. Weren't they like drawing something? And he was seeing.
She's getting the direction on the scene from this hack.
Right.
And I feel like. I will say I knew I've mentioned this person before on the show, but who knew Anita Page, this guy who took care of Anita Page, and that's how I was able to meet. But he made a lot of movies like Trog, and when I'd be on the set of those movies to visit him, they were all very sweet and positive people. They all thought they were making Citizen Kane.
Which is how you have to be when you of every project you do.
True, but you have to be self-aware.
Realistic.
And if you have talent, you're self-aware.
Right.
And so people on those things don't have. So I don't think he was being. No, I think he's actually. Isn't this like?
Isn't this
because
great?
you could tell he just was kind of clueless the whole time.
Right.
We should actually learn more about.
This
all right,
is
so
fun
another
movie
assignment.
making.
I want to find out who played the ape in Trog, or who played Trog, if the troglodyte. We go to the book signing. It just continues to rock continues to roll down.
Did we skip over her holding the Trog mask?
Oh no! Yes, we end with this. This is the end, and you hear Jim Morrison say, "The West is the best," and that's when she picks up the Trog mask and sits down with it. We know she's there rehearsing lines all night, but really, she's spiraling off into madness.
Right, and holding a mask like this. The West is the best. When she was in LA, when she was making movies, it all comes back to she was always playing Joan Crawford, and she's holding a mask. She's always been under a mask. She never really knew who she was.
No.
Like, what's underneath this?
Way further east than even New York. We're in London.
I
almost died at that moment. Yeah, when she put the mask on and just sat there, it was just
heartbreaking.
Oh my God, stop this. Please. And the Doors and Jim Morrison, who is going to perish young. Good work, people. Good work, people making this. We're very, very, very treated. We're at the book signing, and I thought it was funny. The girl that comes up, Brenda, the fan who's seen Trog 6 times, like that. Like her and her friends. It's the funniest thing in the world to see this awful movie. And I don't know. Well, she's in pink and blue, and it's the same pink and blue that you see Joan in the movie. She's got a pink dress, but then the blue kind of lab coat.
Oh, yes. Okay.
And
yeah. When she was talking about colors and muted colors in a boardroom, and she said, "No, I always wear pink." And yes. So
even up comes the girl, like in the same like kind of pink and blue ensemble. How painful that no one's buying the book. We're just lucky they showed up.
It's horrible.
And they were just showing up for the freak show, and God, to have gone from the movie she made after Baby Jane, where she's out in the audience, having to do all these like humiliating things to promote her movie, to this,
But she was really always so, like her
Game?
fans were always so important to her, and
Yes.
kind of, in
But I
some
think,
sense,
yes,
also
the
had-
older fans, but these are young. This is the
Yeah.
new crop
So
that
this-
doesn't know her or get her.
Mhm.
It's like, oh, you were really funny in Trog, or loved you in Baby Jane because you were beaten down, but you're a survivor. You have hope. And it's like, oh my God, like you don't even, can't you show me Grand Hotel? Like, can't you?
Yes, yeah.
Why
it
is
was
it?
so heartbreaking? And she gave her, I didn't write down the line, but the first fan, she gave her a barb that was so Betty, which is another example
Yeah.
of how they're like switching
Yes,
roles
it was
here.
really clever.
Yeah, it was clever. And I didn't write
Everyone's
it
going to
down.
be wondering why I'm taking up all my time. Like, why? Who is this girl who's so important that she should be taking up all my time over everyone else in line, or
Yes,
something
yes,
like
yes,
that?
that's exactly
You're
what
right.
it was.
You're
Yes,
right. Again,
which was such a Betty barb.
such a Betty Barb. Let's see. So by the time we get back to her apartment in New York, she's dressed in black, and she sees the infamous photo of her and Rosalind Russell
Yeah.
at a charity luncheon.
Yes, they had a charity luncheon, and that I
Can
read
you
that
speak to that?
yeah, I read that actually happened. So they had this charity luncheon. Rosalind Russell was suffering from a certain kind of rheumatoid arthritis.
or
Oh, was it
leukemia. I
leukemia?
thought
Okay.
she said
Okay.
leukemia. I thought
And she was on medication or steroids that was making her
bloated.
bloated. Yeah, and the next day Joan saw the picture in the paper, and she said, "If that's how they see me, then they'll never see me again." And after that, she never.
Stop
left her
submitting
house.
me to roles. We cut back to is it Pauline, the secretary?
Yes.
And she says, in Japan at 60, you celebrate your second childhood. And she's like, give your grandmother a call or something like that. And you think about this country. I've heard that before, how the Japanese revere the elderly. They're the wise ones. They're the ones you go to for the answers. They know better. And in this country, man, we've just always been out with the old and with the new.
Yeah.
And I think it's getting faster and faster. And I think we also, at the same time, have a culture, and this is not for the show, that is trying to be 17 as long as they can for the rest of my dad, when he came to LA 20 years ago, he's like, this place, he's like, everybody's 42 going on 17. You know what I mean? Every
Yeah.
single, and that was then. It's, I mean,
right.
the 40-year-old man,
That was
children
before
walking around,
selfies and
selfies, and for me, for guys, when I see the 45-year-old in the Superman shirt, and it's not about that because I'm wearing a Star Trek costume twice a week on the Tomorrow Show, but it's the mentality is just, childish, narcissistic. Anyway, again, a different show. The great Victor Bono. Victor Bono is in for the 78 documentary. They get him in there. And he says, Charlotte, Hush Hush Sweet Charlotte was no Baby Jane. And I know we had a couple of people on YouTube say Hush Hush Sweet Charlotte got 8 Oscar noms. But if you look carefully, it was not Best Picture,
Right.
Best Writing, Best Director, Best Leading Character. It
Right.
was all like sub things.
the song.
And it's fine. And he even said that. It's a fine movie, but
Yeah.
it was not.
We watched it recently, and
What'd you think?
it was not Baby Jane. It was boring at certain points.
Do you
I
think-
think the script was not Baby Jane?
Okay, so Jason and I went back and forth on
Justin.
this. Justin, sorry. Goddamn, sorry everybody. Do you think if Joan had,
Yes.
it would have been a better movie?
Yes, my husband and I kept saying that. But that being said, we do think the script was just not Baby Jane. There was a lull in the conflict. There was constant conflict in Baby Jane because you were always waiting to see what she was going to do to her next. And this, you didn't really know that Olivia de Havilland's character was so evil until kind of more than halfway through. So there was a point where it was like, does this movie ever, like, what's happening?
Why would Joan have been better than Olivia?
Because
Even
there
though Olivia,
were
I thought, was a
parts
better
where
actress.
there were parts where they went back and forth, where they were, trying to make her crazy throughout the whole movie. And it was just like, what a shame. If it had been Joan, it would have been just, it would have been electric. It would have been so much better. I didn't
chemistry.
think, yeah, the
Okay.
chemistry.
So Victor talks about the 8 pilots she made, and she lost the ability to say no. She lost her high standards.
Her signature was, her high standards.
And we just see like the montage of the one, like trying so hard on pilots and whatnot, and then she has she has Victor over to her house, and she's drinking, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and smoking, of course. And this first time we see her, and we see she's aged.
Mm-hmm.
She throws like the plate of like sandwiches with the crust
Right.
cut up to down on his lap. And she goes off on Hepburn.
Yes, she's the Joan to Hepburn's Bette.
Go, please explain.
Because she always, Bette always wanted to be the first actress to win 3 Oscars for Best Actress, and Joan stole that from her.
Of course.
And Katharine Hepburn eventually got it, although she had to share one with someone else. And so she always felt that Katharine Hepburn was, just had higher standards. She was a snob. She lived in Connecticut. She didn't live in LA. She could choose whatever she wanted. And so she feels the insecurity that Joan felt toward her.
Wow.
About her artistry. And then she says that whole story with Life magazine, I'll tweet about it. Katharine Hepburn said no, and Bette was game. And Katharine Hepburn said no for a variety of reasons. She felt that the last time she did something for Life magazine, they didn't put her on the cover, and she just kind of didn't need it. She was kind of happy and secluded in Connecticut.
I feel like as much as we all gush over what an artist Bette was, I feel that Hepburn was every bit the artist, more sophisticated, and I don't think needed it as much. I think loved it, but didn't need it. It wasn't her end all be all. I think, and I think you're right. I think she's the Joan.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Betty's the Joan.
Right. In that situation.
But she doesn't care, and I feel like she'd just be like, and people can tell us who know more about Hepburn, but I feel like she was just the type like, I don't want to roll around with this chick.
Yeah.
I'm good. I'm good, like you said. I'm good in Connecticut.
Mm-hmm. But I also think that Bette was her jealousy was seething at Hepburn. Then it moved on to, she'll have something I never had.
Right. But remember that we keep talking about this role reversal. Then she becomes Joan. At least I have my kids.
Right.
And that's what Joan. Remember, like keep adopting.
Right. Exactly.
I have my children. And then we cut to 1972. Coughing, phlegmy, Susan Sarandon. I just love. I don't know how she could get there, but she did. I always want to know how an actor gets that smoky, burnt cigarette voice.
I don't know, but it sounds great.
Right? It was amazing. And as I said before, we're in like a very Joan-like setting. It's Hollywood. It's bright. Like this is what it would have looked like in the 50s. And she's definitely knocking the young people there, but the setting itself looks. And now she's playing Sugar Water.
Yeah.
This is someone who's always been to the point, painfully blunt, whether it's about marriage, with Bette, anything, you're not that good of an actor, so what? I mean, just brutal. And now it's, let's have a girls' day.
Right.
And you know what I mean? She's turning into Joan.
Right, yes. But I also think she feels, none of her pilots are being picked up. She's not doing this Life magazine shoot with Katharine Hepburn. She feels like, what if I worked all this, what have I done all of these years? The one thing I have that Katharine Hepburn doesn't have is my children. So now I'll focus on men to fill me up.
But what did Joan do?
The same thing.
And then when the twins got old, she went to the adoption agency again.
Yeah.
So we're seeing the same,
They're so alike.
The same thing. And we find out that she smacked, again, the similarities to Mommy Dearest, she smacks the baby in the face.
Grandchild.
And why?
Because she was
not for
crying.
stealing candy, not for, breaking a vase or talking back to grandma. No, for what?
Crying because his parents went out, right?
Because he loved his parents and his parents were leaving. So of course, he's a baby and had a genuine love that she never probably had for her mother, and Bette never had for her.
Exactly.
So it's, shut up!
She was actually very close with her mother, so later when we hearing that...
So we thought.
That was heartbreaking.
So we thought.
She considered her best friend.
Right? And so, but her life was a fraud too, like Joan. So she thought. And even even when Bette goes at her hard.
Yes.
Let's get guacamole. Everything's better. I mean,
the margarita at 11 a.m.
She's Joan. I was just stunned. When she's at the doctor's, what's that?
The
What
Dean
we-
Martin roast. But go ahead.
Oh no, yeah,
Yeah.
just the doctor. Cigarettes are my only friends, and she's refusing therapy.
Mm-hmm.
17 days. She tries to be sober. We know that's not going to last.
Right.
You're not 18, the doctor says. I mean, just these constant brutal reminders of getting. But yes, the Dean Martin roast. And my first shout out is to the guy who played Dean Martin because I thought he nailed it.
You looked like him.
It sounded like him.
Sounded like him.
1973 at the roast, and this is actually on YouTube, guys, if you want to check it out. And I love Victor's description about fifth-rate celebrities. So you've got Jace Hayter, or she's the new Hedda. Did you see that
Yes,
Hollywood
yes.
gossip column? And she's
yeah.
like the new Hedda, but now the poor man's. Obviously, he's not someone who's famous or we would know, right? And I thought it was again, this thing just, I can't believe the truth, how it wrote itself. But Vincent Price, you know the correlation between Vincent Price and Victor.
Victor Bono.
They were
Yes.
both Batman villains and similar. He played one played Egghead, one played
Okay.
King Tut. Like it wasn't like Riddler or Joker or Penguin, like, or Catwoman, the main ones.
Right,
It was
like
the crappy B ones that they made for TV and were light and fun. So that was just like, I can't, this thing just writes itself. I cannot believe it's Vincent Price knocking her, and they're all knocking her for being manly.
Yes.
And Joan Crawford, right? And brutal. Brutal.
And she just sits there and takes it.
She takes it,
Yeah.
and then it turns to discussion of Amy McPherson. So, and then that takes us to a 76 dinner party. All young people. Everybody's like smoking at the table. And she talks about this Amy McPherson chick who back in the day, an evangelist that she wants to play, but the studio wouldn't let her play the part.
She was too old.
Too old. And now they let, wasn't it years ago she wanted to do it, and then the project came back around?
Okay. So she
And
missed the.
I
okay.
think, I'm not
Okay.
sure. But anyway, I was under that impression. But either way, she did feel, it seemed like she felt like she could play, still could have played the character.
Right.
Which is
It's just such a Joan thing, because when Joan's daughter got sick, she played her character on the soap opera.
Yes. And so now, again, how this thing writes itself, it's Faye Dunaway, of all people, who is now the new Joan, who's in her dressing room forever, who's a nightmare, and then who we know goes on to play Mommy Dearest, which is just insane.
And Joan had said Joan had given such wonderful compliments to Faye Dunaway. She felt that she was the only actress
who could play.
who could. She felt like she was the only. She didn't say play her, but she felt like she just had the gravitas. She gave her such compliments.
Do you-
The
okay.
irony that she goes on to end up playing her.
Do you think any of that had to do with her hearing that there were problems on set between Faye Dunaway and Bette Davis,
Oh,
and she was
maybe.
fanning the flames? Like, I love that young
Yes.
actress. Do you think?
Perhaps. Yeah, I
Okay.
wouldn't put it past her.
Okay. She knocks Chinatown. Did you notice? Like she ends up,
acted like she was reading from the Bible and saying, "You better show up on time, even if you're the star of Chinatown."
you have mic problems here. All right, I'm going to carry us for a little bit while we get your mic fixed. But do you think when she knocks, she makes that mention to Chinatown? Remember, it's Jack Nicholson who stars in that. Do you think that there's a correlation between that and her talking, Joan Crawford talking about Easy Rider and Jack Nicholson at the beginning?
They both mentioned, yes.
You think so? It's a
they're
crossover?
both- they probably both were like, I would love to be in a movie with him.
Well, but also, yes, and symbolically speaking, it's them
On the same wavelength.
on the same wavelength. But not quite, right? So they're both not talking about Chinatown or Easy Rider. It's one or the other.
Then Kathy visits.
And has by this time we'll try and go chronological. Has Victor advised her to call?
Oh yes, she calls her and says nothing.
I wonder if
I don't know if that really happened. I'll find out. I'll tweet it, but I don't know. And it's interesting that she said nothing, but they're both in the same situation. He said, "You're both Aries. You both had 4 husbands. You both have angry children."
Yes.
They could have saved each other. They
Yes.
could have, if only one of them had said something. And she calls her and says nothing.
You're the only one who would understand. You know, she's the only one.
Yes.
Ironically, she's the only one to understand what you're going through, says Victor. And then, you know, she thinks Dunaway's good. I should warn her. And then I just love the pause. You should warn her. Oh my goodness. Joan's a cockroach like me.
I love that.
Right.
Which makes it all the more impactful when she finds out she died.
Yeah.
She doesn't
And
live forever.
That's a whole other thing.
Yeah.
So Kathy, one of the twins, comes with the grandchildren to Joan. And, you know, we've got the microwave and paper plates. There's no mamacita.
She says, I don't want to leave a mess for Mamacita, who's her maid, which is her job to clean up the mess,
Right,
but it's really her friend.
Yes,
Yeah.
but again, growth role reversal. I mean, right? Like she's...
And she doesn't mind if the kids scuff up the floor. Like, that's not Joan
That's
Crawford.
the biggest thing.
Yes.
Is she's just like, oh, as long as they don't get hurt.
Yeah.
And
She's finally becoming the mother she should have been.
what did you think when Kathy's look, when she sees the mother go, no, they can do this, that? Is it like, why weren't you like that with us growing up? Or what? I mean, because I was trying to think what the choice the actress made.
Yeah, I felt like she was saying, she was thinking, who is she? This isn't like my mother. I don't know if
Do you
she's
think
lightened
it's
up
'cause
in
she-
old age, or if
Is it because is she ill? Am I afraid she's, or is she just puzzled and confused?
I think she's puzzled and confused and kind of like, who are you and what have you done with my mother?
You know, she's now a Christian Scientist, and we knew that happened at the end of her life. And it's interesting, when you go to fundamentalism, it's usually about embracing the past. You know, it's the old way that you knew, though. That's the safe way. Christina finally comes up, and I never knew this. I never knew she was aware of the book.
Yeah, she got the galleys in advance.
Oh, so no. What? Now, by the way, that movie ends with her not leaving them any money for reasons well aware of them. Well, God, right? But I was under the impression.
I think she wrote that will years ago, like in the 60s, when they had a contentious relationship and never updated
we sure?
it. And so
Are we sure about that?
I think Christina says they mended their relationship. She just never updated her will. I don't know if that's true. It's so hard. You know, the truth is probably somewhere in the middle.
But I mean, why? I mean, here's the thing. I think that if you saw a book like that, the first thing you do, and I've seen it because I've known older people in Hollywood, and they always threaten the will. The will. But I think your first move is you call your lawyer and go, oh, hell no, get her out of the will.
Right.
But I get it now.
Yeah. Yeah.
I get it. But I was under the impression she just was cruel and cut the daughter off.
Right.
And so I don't know. Maybe that, I don't know if that's...
I think the truth is most definitely probably somewhere in the middle. She probably didn't beat her up as much as Christina says, and she probably wasn't as wonderful as she claims to be, and it was probably somewhere in the middle.
It sounded like she was admitting that she wasn't wonderful.
Yeah.
She was saying it was different than I had pressure on me. Like
it was the height of my career.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
So maybe reading the book opened her eyes.
She said in this she didn't read it, right?
Okay.
She's like, I don't want to read it. I don't want to go backwards. I don't even want to look at that. It's too real.
You don't think she probably glanced at
I
it?
would think she did.
Yeah.
Yes.
How could you not?
I don't know, but the healthy thing is to not, because when you're that
Right.
deep in your cycle, you need to stay there.
Right.
Because that's just too much.
Right.
What about the nightmare?
To me, it wasn't a nightmare because I'm
Okay, no, tell me.
crazy. I believe that when you go to sleep at night, you you're on another plane and you're able to correspond with people who've gone before you as well as people who are still here. So when you wake up in the morning, sometimes you wake up in the morning and you have a new outlook, or you realize things, and things are always better in the morning.
Some are dreams and some are nightmares, though, correct?
Yes. So I think this was.
I mean, it was a dream.
It was a healing. It was a correspondence with the people who'd gone before, and a kind of healing with the people, with Bette, who was still here. And I think Jack died in 78.
Is that why at the end of it she's... Okay, I don't want to get to the end of the scene, because I noticed this watching a second time, the flames in the window. So they're in hell.
That they're in hell, yeah.
Rightfully.
Yeah, yeah.
But Jack Warner and Hedda...
I think they...
I think please
there is
break
no
this down for me.
So I think this is my interpretation.
Well,
I think there is...
Let's talk about the series interpretation, not yours. Like, you
Yes.
have flames in the window,
Yes.
right?
Right.
Obviously,
Yes,
like...
yes. So my interpretation is she is having that conversation with all of them that she should have had a lot, like awake and alive. And they finally came to an understanding.
And she was secure enough to handle it all.
Yes, and that he had his pain. He was told, you're a Jew, go away. Hedda had her pain. She was a failed actress. They each had their own pain, which you can't hate someone when you know their story. So they were each telling their stories. Like, if you only understood what I'd been through, we would have treated each other differently.
Right.
So she was having that conversation.
Or Jack's like, or probably not. like
he's still him.
He was still consistent. Yeah, that's who he was.
Yes.
And she was like, okay, I get it.
Yes.
And they're all playing cards, reminiscent of Sunset Boulevard. Remember when she's playing cards with the waxworks? But I love when Jack says, yeah, we didn't have talent.
Yes.
He's like, thank God, right? And she's like, and Hedda's like, I had talent. I just wanted to be the one pulling the strings.
Right.
I wanted to be the.
She said the stars, they're the one. It looks like you have the world on a string, when the truth is, it's better to be pulling the strings.
Right.
And then Betty shows up, and
I almost like, before we get there, I almost like how I felt like Joan was saying, why? Because I've always wanted to ask people too, who just get off on terrorizing other people.
Right.
Why? Like, why did you have to conquer? And that's when Betty comes in. It's not unite and conquer. And why does anyone have to be conquered at all? And then she comes in and says, because the animals would run the the asylum, or the inmates would run the asylum, or some line like that. And to me, that's so Betty, because she was so, I've said this in earlier episodes, she was, until this episode, so self-aware that she knew that you can't let a Joan Crawford run the show. She was crazy.
Right. And she was also, like you were saying last week's after show, that to be a good actress, you have to get it. And I feel like she understood people's motivation. So she saw Hedda in pain. She saw Jack Warder in pain, and hurt people. So this is why, this was kind of their motivations for doing the things that they did. I thought it was amazing when she said, I always had to be on, which had to be exhausting, and I don't know who I am when I am by myself, which explains her whole life and everything she's ever done.
Both of them, though.
Yes.
Because Betty doesn't know anymore. Oh, I'm a mom. See, now I'm a mom to my special needs child, which we're going to see. I'm great with the grandkids. We're going to have a girls' day. Like, no. And what brings them on the same page? I love the young and the restless.
Yes.
So tell me.
Yes.
How many layers are in that one?
Oh, right.
Right? We like young. We wanted to be when we were young and restless. I wish we were back there. We like we both now like a two-dimensional sugar water story, not a deep, at least for Betty, who used to be into the art.
Yes.
Brando and what else?
And that, but they also said all that pain will finally amount to something, which I think means that, that all, over the course of their lives, they all evolved, they all learned something. And I also almost cried when Betty said, you should apologize to Joan, when she came to her defense.
Yeah.
Yes. Wonderful.
It was nice. And they played the card game, which I thought was amazing.
Yes. And I'm sorry I wasn't more generous with you. I wish I'd been a friend to you.
A better friend.
I could have lost it.
So sad. Like, I was the beautiful one. I could have been generous in acting. Like, you were the better actor, and I could have been more generous as the supporting actor and helped you get that Oscar. And I could have been a better friend to you, because I knew you were a crazy mental case that nobody wanted to be around. Like, I at least had Joseph Cotton and Victor, and the crew liked me, and Bob Aldrich liked me. God.
Sorry.
No, you guys can't. I'm sorry. We're gonna have to run late. Please don't do this to me.
1 second. There's so much to.
Yeah, we have to go. Come on, Juliet, please. Don't you see my face in the building? I'm Joan. They're moving me out. Okay, we'll go as fast as we can.
Champagne toast. She died a week later.
Yes, no. That reversal shot. It's champagne. Mamacita, where is the champagne? You don't drink anymore. Well, get some for my friend Betty. And then snap fingers. And great director, single shot. And by the way, also the shot of Hedda, the single, you see that single almost fisheye lens of Hedda talking, how scary she was. Just okay. Looking. But we get this reversal, gray, long hair, morning coat, or whatever that is, night robe. and sitting there alone as it's just raining out in the dark, talking to herself, and Mamacita comes and basically, takes her away. Here's what I wanted to know. When she looks at herself and her clothing and her hair, I thought she'd be horrified. Like, what? Why is she happy to see Mamacita? She's just happy she's still alive and not dead?
Well, I feel like that's why I think it wasn't a nightmare. I feel like she got closure, and then she died a week later. Like, I feel like
okay.
she
And
was
so
like,
that's why she was
okay.
happy.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Mamacita shows up in the documentary, big funeral, and, same old Hollywood deal. Everyone shows up at the funeral. Andy Warhol, like he wasn't even around during her heyday, but it's like all the hipsters show up.
They have to be seen.
And she's upset about that. And this was heartbreaking when Betty said, you only say good things about the dead, so here you go. Joan Crawford is dead. Good.
Yeah.
Just please explain that to me.
No, that was one of her. That's what she was famous for. She was famous for giving these one-liners, and they were biting, and they were witty, and they were smart, and that was one of the meanest ones.
But mean at the end. Come on.
But
at
to
the
her,
end.
it was like mean and funny, but in private. So I read that when she found out that Joan died, she was with someone in like a green room, and it was on the news, and she said something very nice about her. Like, she was a legend. Like, she was great.
I knew someone who knew her and said, you know what, she was difficult, but she was really, when Mommy Dearest came out, and this is before the book was written about her with Beattie, she said, that's terrible, and she didn't deserve that. I'm sorry. And so she was kinder.
But she still had to be her in that moment. She still had to give her that last stinger.
And is it because, again, the show must go on and I must be Betty, or is that how I really feel?
I think she just went back to relying on her way of giving her zingers.
Quickly, we go see Margot, and we're total Joan mode. Everything is it's. I was on a date with I went on a wonderful date with a man. Of course, this is a gay guy. It is not a date. He drew a wonderful picture of me, and it's like the picture. She's like, yeah, that's the old bag. She's brushing her hair. Did you see the thick eyebrows on Margot? Do you think that was a little bit of a Joan thing?
A Joan thing? Yeah, perhaps. Yeah.
Am I going
because
too deep?
Because this is after the death, and so now she's in a sense being kind to Joan.
And then she starts admitting the mother shit talked her in letters,
which is insane and one of, I can't imagine how hurtful, because the way she spoke of her mother all of those years after her death and before, they were best friends. They were best friends to the exclusion of her sister. So to find out that this was how
her
she
life
really
was a lie as well.
Yes, felt about her is the ultimate loneliness. How alone she must have felt.
At the 1978 Academy Awards, the fact that Turning Point is my favorite film. If you look at 78, what was nominated, you can see she's not Betty anymore. Turning Point, what? Like Bette Davis would have been into Deer Hunter, or not that was that year, but I'm saying this is not Bette Davis. And again, truth stranger than fiction. She's there to give a humanitarian award to Charlton Heston, who's all about guns and killing people. No, I'm sorry. I know there's Heston fans out there, and he was a fine actor, but he got a little crazy with guns and I don't,
NRA.
Yeah, and so, but he's getting a humanitarian award, and she's giving the award, right?
Right,
Again,
which is another
a lie, such a lie. And the 2-second tribute, how does that happen?
50 years in showbiz, and you get 2 seconds.
And she's not even the last one. It's Bing Crosby.
Yes.
Is the next one. And then they all have a drink to her. And she refuses to sit with Adam, the director, which I get. Like, I'm not going to be part of this. Right? Is that, I'm just not going to be part of this anymore?
Yes, she said, I won't say a bad thing about, I know you want me to sit there and give zingers about Joan Crawford, and I won't do it. Which was another point. I could have cried. She said, I won't say a bad thing about Joan Crawford.
Yeah, which was awesome. And then why did they say, why did that one assistant say, I wish I was there on the first day, the female?
I think
because we were there on the first day, and we saw how it all went down.
Yeah, I don't think we saw this exchange.
We did not.
Yeah,
we did not.
So we saw that they could have become friends when they were at that dinner, and they were saying that Joan said, "This is what happened to me as a young child." They were giving that was the moment they were becoming friends, and then Hedda Hopper, the devil who's in hell now, not really,
right,
ruined it all. I think.
So we think, and also some of the other people too, Jack Warner.
Our interpretation of the show, that's what it seems like.
Right.
So.
And I thought it was so poignant, that wide shot their dressing was with just 2 boxes. 2 boxes, 2
which is
prison
where you
cells.
end up at the end of the day.
Right? And you're right. And you're in 2 boxes at the end. And when we go to the black screen, the epilogue, I thought it was interesting that they made a note that all of Bob's 4 kids went on to work in show business. So it's like, I feel like he got it right.
Yeah. He did something right.
He got it right. And I always said that about him.
Yeah.
He was.
To be fair, Betty's son became a successful lawyer in Boston, happily married with 2 kids, and we never saw him because there was no conflict there. I think
Right, there's not the story. Wow. So, I mean, I think one of the most amazing series I've seen, especially for a miniseries, I think the best. Certainly one of the best. And we will be back. I know you're excited for the for
I'm
Diana.
a royal file.
Okay, I know, and I am gonna be here too. Justin will be out of his mind. So will Maria. I will be the weak link on that show. I will not be leading that show. No, I love it from history and I love it from people, but for me, I'm old Hollywood. I really wish we were going. I wish we were doing an older Feud or but. Anyway, you guys, thank you so much. The fans on this were great this year. We definitely, we weren't as consistent, I think, panel-wise as we wanted to be because this kind of all came together fast. We'll be more on it next time. Maria will talk less about herself. But anyway, no, you guys were great. Your tweets, your comments on iTunes, and your comments on YouTube. If you want to go there and send us those comments on YouTube, on iTunes, or at Fern Renee, right?
I'm on everything, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat at Fern Renee, and my website, fernrenee.com, and tweet me because I love corresponding with you.
And Fern will figure it out for you. If she doesn't know, she'll figure it out. I'm at Undergaro, and check me out on The Tomorrow Show, thetomorrowshow.com, Mondays and Thursdays, and you can get us on iTunes. You guys, thank you in the booth. Thank you, AfterBuzz, for your patience, letting us go over. We'll see you back for Charles and Diana. Peace.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Keven Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.